Hello folks and welcome to the channel today. Today we're at Engine Swaps and we're looking at the Tokyo 600 race. This is one of everybody's favourites for grinding. We've had the game around 10 months now, and with that we've probably ground this track a lot. Ground it to the ground, one would say. So to make life easier for you, I've taken a couple of cars, put some engine swaps in. Now I've not really found that I like either of these two cars greatly on the majority of races. So I've brought them to a Tokyo 600 to try and show their worth. Why you would actually put an engine swap into these cars. The Evo 10 I have a historic dislike with because I'm a Subaru owner, so I'm never going to really like the Evo. And the RX7 Wankel engine, rotary as many call them. This has got the 787 engine in, and it's quite a handful. Now at other tracks this car feels underpowered. It doesn't really feel like it fits the bill. I think it's a drift car, and the point of the 787 swap is to make it a competitive drift car if you can drift. The Evo has the Escudo engine and it's four-wheel drive rather than rear-wheel drive. So I think these two cars make a really good comparison. So if you think both are capable of no stops because they've got really good fuel economy, but then you limit them to 600 pp, where do they fit in the box? Now I've run this race a couple of times. I've kind of picked the best of the bag of the races and compared them together. I've not done it as a setup. I've not made it close because it's close. But I'll try and enjoy a little bit of commentary with you and set the race up. So we're going to run through a little bit of introduction to the cars. Again, we've got some skins from GTP Addictions. Thank you, JB. And we'll walk through them and show you to the best. We'll have a race. I'll commentate it through it. I'll make my decision as to which the best car is. But you can go away from this video with two setups. You can try them yourself and try and break up that grind around the 600. Give yourself something else to think about and some different type of change so that you can enjoy the game more. We'll see you after the intro. Take care. So here we are, the first of the cars, the Lancer Evo Final 15, proudly dressed in a new skin from JB. Has reminiscence to the real rally cars, although the Evo 10 did feature in many stage rallies, probably not the most prominent rally car. It's four-wheel drive, which goes with its heritage. Good looking skin, JB, do like that. It does have some rally art stickers on it as well, which really does bring it together. The car itself and the setup, which we'll go through in a minute. Turbo aspiration. The setup actually makes this car quite challenging. It really is limited at the lower power to fit the 600 pp. The torque split makes it quite interesting. It suffers heavily from front tyre wear, and you've got to manage that as you go through the race. I'd love to hear that car banging through that scenery at full rally stage. That would be immense. I don't think we'd ever see or hear that. Didn't make the Group B's this one. This was purely after the Group B's. In this rally, in this stage, it's 614 brake horsepower, which is still a fair amount for the limit of 600 pp. There's no glitch in this one, it seems. It's a natural 614, just limited by the fact that it's where it is. The car's weight also makes it a challenge, some 1,561 kilos. For those who use pounds and ounces, that's round about 3,000 pounds, with a front rear weight balance split of 60-40. Again, adds to the front tyre wear, and you'll see that in the race. We have to make adjustments for it. So here's the setup. Sports hard tyres, you can see the stats on the left hand side. We're just inside the 600 pp. Height adjustable sports suspension with no real changes. That's how it comes default. Differential, you've got a choice of two. You could put the all-encompassing diff, but we left it as normal. Rear wing just adjusted slightly. Output down to 74%. 70 on the power restrictor. And then the adjustable gearbox at 310. High RPM turbo, but you've got nothing else there. You can only use the basic stuff. Racing slotted disc, racing brake pads, but nothing else added. Quite limited, and that's why the car's a bit of a handful, because I think it needs power to come out the corner. over to the RX7 Spirit R Type A FD02. Quite a mouthful, but a good looking skin all the same, and a good looking car. I do like the pop-up headlights on this. It's naturally aspirated, which you'd think leads it to have less power, but this RB engine is R26B, really does have some punch, this thing. It's breathing well. Front engine rear powered, rear wheel drive, which gets the back end out a bit. Don't really suffer from tyre wear, this one. Again, like the other car, will go the entire race without a pit stop. It's a good skin, often lending itself more to the drift look. And here we are in it, looking like it's in its natural environment. One of the 2 stages in Japan somewhere. So 487 brake horsepower in comparison to the 600 plus the Evo. I think that's what evens this race up a bit and makes this car a bit of a challenge to get around the circuit. The back end does step out. It's a lot lighter than the Evo as well at 1,302 kilos, some 2,600, 2,700 pounds to those that use the other weight metrics. And it does really balance up the weight, just like this car. At 50-50 weight balance, it's almost perfect and makes the car handle pretty good, except for the occasional slide or step out that you just can't control. And there's those pop-up lights doing its thing. I do like the way they've made that a mechanic of the game. And here it is, just a thank you to JB for those skins. We don't get to see them in the race because you're inside the car, but there they are. Thank you, mate. It's appreciated. And with that, we go to the race. Well, we don't. We go to the setup for the RX7. So just underneath the actual 600 pp target. Sports side tyres again. Sports suspension, not affected. We didn't change anything. Fully customisable rear diff. Just set at the normal figures that you get to put it in. Downforce just slightly up on the rear wing. Fully customisable ECU set to 71. Ballast at 11. -3 on the position just to make that weight balance split very well. Perfect. Customisable fully manual transmission at 270. No turbo. And just the racing silencer, which comes with the car by default when you do the engine swap. Racing slotted discs. Racing brake pad, and that's your lot. And now we go to the race. So you're going to see a top and a bottom view. The Mazda on the bottom and the Evo on the top. And I'll attempt to talk our way through it. So we go over the line pretty much on spec. I found that the Evo does tend to have a little bit of lag in the acceleration because we're not giving it all the power that it needs. That 600 brake horsepower doesn't really give it the impetus it needs. But both these cars really do shift it down the straight. You'll see top speeds 180, 190 mile an hour, and then the braking point in roughly the same place, but both get a bit messy. And they're quite tight at this point. Look, the RX at the bottom in position 8, the Evo in position 10, but we've just got to get them both to settle down. The way the race is at the moment, the settings are that if you do any or much bumpering with the old AI cars, or you hit the outside of the track, you're gonna lose that clean race bonus. I've run the race a good dozen times in the last 3 or 4 days, and I've not had a clean race bonus. Even when I've tried to, I still clip a barrier and lose it. You can see the damage on the back of that R8 there from the Evo, giving it some. So as it stands at this point in lap 1, the Mazda is just nosing ahead. He's just a corner ahead at this point. The Evo's sat with his power differential at 50-50, which is where the car seems happiest, I must admit. But it does suffer some front tyre wear. The front wheels tend to pull it through the corner. As you can see on the RX7 on the bottom screen, he's got 26 laps of fuel, 24 laps of fuel. He's going to find that easy to get to the end, but he's in the lead as well at this point. Both cars looking to break somewhere time around the 170 point. The RX7 just coming through the braking point, and the Evo does exactly the same thing. just has to use an AI car for brakes, which isn't good. Coming round to the end of lap 1, the RX7 just has the head, just has the lead, gets into the tunnel first, but there's not much in it. There's probably 4 or 5 car lengths. Both have got the same front flashing damage in the damage indicator bottom left. So in the lead in both races with the fastest lap in both races, Mr. Gallo, a 2:27 on the bottom screen, 2:28 on the top screen. The RX7's in 5th, the Evo in 7th. Always a bit confusing to watch the race from this combined sort of view. I've tried to do it left right, I've tried to do it up and down, and I think up and down gives you the best opportunity on most screens, but the 2 engine noises can also be quite overpowering. As I'm recording this though, the audio channel is separate, so I'll be able to balance it up, so you'll get a better audio than I will. And I've had a few comments from people about my audio balancing, so I will attempt to get that right. So coming round on lap 2 now, the RX7 still in the lead as it goes underneath the bridge at the chicane, and the Evo follows it through. Bit of a twitch from the RX7, 2 positions different, which is probably comparable on the actual position on the track. If we're looking at where they are on the track, if you look 2 positions ahead, that's probably where the RX7 is. So it's also quite an unusual way to review your racing and see how good you are and where you are. So in the 2 races, the actual driver positions are slightly different, so we can see how much the races vary. It's something that happens quite a lot. The difficulty with the game, and as someone who likes to share what he does and show you how it's done, I'll never see how your game plays. Maybe the game changes and reacts to how you drive. Well, in this case, I can see the difference between the 2, but I can't see what happens at yours. So ultimately, I'll always try and give the best advice, but it is based on my game and how it plays. Somebody spoke today about driving on easy. This is played on hard. Game settings are always default ABS traction control 1 game setting is hard. So I find the hard actually plays easier than the easy. I don't know whether that's psychological with me. So the RX7 just braking now, going up the hill, and the Evo coming in behind. He's actually seeming like he's catching up. He's only half a corner behind now instead of a full corner. The RX7 comes out the corner, and now so does the Evo. So he's on his way. The Evo seems to carry more speed than the RX through the longer corners. Maybe that's something with the balancing of the car, with the traction, by the way, of the 4-wheel drive, not by the weight of the car, because the RX7 is actually a perfect split of 50-50. But you can tell as well by the way I've only got the torque split on the Evo, is I'm not concerned about fuel, because as I say, I have run the race a few times. Another comment on the setups as well is that don't ever think my setups are final. They're somewhat default, they're quick and easy to make the changes. I've really only tried to make them fit the 600 pp, and I drive them however they come out. I don't suggest that these are the best in the way of the setups. Feel free to tweak them. If you absolutely nail the setup with what I've suggested, and you've made some extra tweaks to make it even better, don't be afraid to share them with me. Tell me what you've done different. Make the comment always underneath the video, or message me if you're a friend in the game. And if you do want to join me in the game and be on my friends list, I am Widdowmaker 10144. Please don't hesitate to drop me a friend request. I'm quite happy to share with you, and you can get on my friends leaderboard and start to challenge me and my times if you want to. So here we are then, on to lap 4. The RX is in 5th, but the Evo has pushed up to 4th place. So there's been some overtakes and changes there. The RX is actually still in the lead as it goes into the corner, as the Evo just follows it in. Evo up to 3rd, RX in 5th. And it probably is just as it looks in front. The RX is probably looking like it's that RX in front, Mr. Cookabun. That's probably a very good simulation of where they are. The Evo got away from me just then and slid out to the left hand side on the entry, and he lost a bit of ground. Fastest lap so far. The Evo's put a 2:14.4 in, and it looks like the RX has put a 2:14.0. Yeah, so ultimately there's only a roundabout. The clocks are pretty similar. There's probably only 2 seconds between the two of them. And they are actually very, very close at this point. There's 50 yards between the two. Evo's actually gone into the corner neck and neck. So the race is on a knife edge now. The two of them apex in that corner. The Evo looks to be on a fastest lap at this point. Oh, the RX seems to have the acceleration over the Evo, and the RX actually is going to go through the line just a second and a half before it, but the Evo puts in a 2:14.1 and the RX a 2:15.5, so it's pretty close. They're going under the gantries almost neck and neck. It's still as the screen shows it by the looks of it. Evo up to 3rd, RX in 4th. RX is just touching the bumper of number 3rd place, Mr. Hizal. Whereas the Evo has already gone past Mr. Hizal and is now chasing down 2nd place. But that's not representative of the current race we've got. The RX is just ahead, but it's a car length, that's all, just a car length. You can see them coming round the corners there as they go under the bridge. The RX still has the lead. Tremendous racing, much more closer than I actually thought it was, and there's me bigging myself up with my race. But that's the way it is. It really is a good battle and a good comparison to show. 4-wheel drive versus 2-wheel drive. I actually think the Evo's now taken the lead. Ever so marginal. Yeah, he's gone in front. You can see that with the purple sector. But how long for before I mess it up? Well, there's an interesting point. We've now got tyre wear showing on the front and rears of the RX7, the bottom screen, and the fronts are really starting to show wear on the Evo, the top screen. The RX has just managed to lose a little bit of pace through there. The Evo is now a good half a corner in front. He's onto the main straight. Got his best time in that fight, the middle sector there, sector 3. We could see the fastest lap of the race for our two competition cars here, as the Evo is about to go through the line, clearly in the lead now. 2:14.0, which isn't as fast. It's a 2:14.08, whereas the RX is a 2:14.027. That actually might be a 2:14.6, maybe. So maybe the Evo has got the fastest lap on lap 5. In the main race between the two, the fastest lap's at 2:10. I don't see either of the cars, but maybe as the fuel wears down they'll get that quick. And not forgetting, these two cars are not stopping we're going to no-stop this race. So the Evo is some 3 seconds behind our leader. Mr. Gallo in the race has actually pitted just on this lap, but in the bottom screen Mr. Gallo stayed out on lap 6. So the RX is actually in 3rd place, trailing the leader by some 18 seconds. Pit stops in here around about 22-24 seconds. The Evo still maintains the lead, I believe. Yes, he's a good 4 or 5 car lengths ahead now. Chasing down the leader, he has him in his sights. Bottom screen, the RX is some 12 odd seconds behind 2nd place. Mr. Suswillow, I believe that is. The text a little bit small, I apologise for that, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Tyre wear on the Evo is actually starting to look a bit ropey at the halfway point of this race. We're just coming up to the halfway point. It'll be the end of this lap. So, and that's what I was thinking when we got to this point, that we actually have to make some consideration and probably start to throw that power backwards, putting more weight on the rear tyres. I've already got the brake balance thrown to the rear. So it's nothing about fuel consumption, it really has got to be managed, those front tyres. And there you see I've made the change now, 30-70. Gone into the tunnel some 2 seconds ahead of the RX. Now there's a technical change with that. Oh, look at him on the right hand side. We're neck and neck with him, he's just pulling in front, and that's a lovely looking GTR. But the 30-70 split puts more weight to the rear of the car, not more weight, as in more power to the rear of the car. And what that does is it changes the acceleration dynamic out of the corner. So as we brake down here, what you'll start to see is the car pulls in nicely, but then it lags on the way out. The back end sort of steps up, but you see the power not really coming through greatly. So this is where the RX might start to make gains on the Evo. Mr. Suswillow is kind of pushing on. Still maintaining round about 4 car lengths different, but the RX has now got to start pushing. He put a 2:14.8 in last lap, and the Evo did a 2:15.7. So the RX is continuing to chase, and the RX is in the lead, and the Evo are now leading their own races. Evo just got his nose in front here, goes into the corner probably 2.5 car lengths ahead. And the RX is really catching up now, really starting to apply the pressure. The RX is much quicker through this sector of the track, and he will start to close in as he comes down to the braking point. The Evo has to brake much earlier. Again, he's probably got 2.5 car lengths, braking on the 150. The RX and the Evo are very close. Let's have a look at top speeds and see what we get down here then. Both cars should keep the lead now, neither should lose it. He says that as Mr. Cookabun comes up on the rear of the RX behind him, but I think he's going to take to the pits, and he does, he goes to the pits. So it should be the run to the finish now for these guys. There shouldn't be any pressure on, and that's the key with this race at the 600. If you've got a no-stopper car, if you get ahead by the halfway point, and we move into lap 8, let's look at them top speeds. 188, 190 below, 190. There's not much in it. 192, 193, 194. A very even setup. And I can just see on the Evo there a slight change to 2080 now on the torque distribution. Just to try and manage that wear a little bit more. But the Evo stays ahead. The Evo just staying ahead. And the change happened in those 2 corners. Change very much happened in those corners. The RX comes through to take the lead, and he's now clearly in the lead going under the bridge. The torque distribution on the Evo now aimed to the rear, and he's not getting the pull through the corner that the front traction gives. But with over 4.5 laps to go, there isn't that room in the tyre wear on the Evo to actually drag it through the corners. Maybe that's some setup needed required on that differential, where the acceleration, or as some people call it, preload, needs to be balanced up slightly. Oh, the RX got out of shape there round that corner, but the same curb got hit by the Evo. I'm kind of expecting a good lap here by the RX, as the RX goes into that corner and out of the second part of the corner, the second apex, a full 2 car lengths clear, 3 car lengths probably now, as the RX starts to stretch its legs and pull away. 5 or 6 car lengths now. Is some 15-mile-an-hour advantage over the Evo, but on the straights the Evo will start to minimise that, because they'll be less dependent on the front wheel drive, because all the grunt will be going through the back wheel as long as it gets the traction. We'll see what the RX's top speed is. 193, 194, 195 it blipped. The Evo 193, so 2 mile-an-hour difference on the top speed. The Evo puts in a purple sector 1. The RX is some 12 seconds ahead of second place. Mr. Gallo and the Evo is 22 seconds ahead of Mr. Yamanaka. Mr. Gallo down in 5th place in the top race. Torque split gone to 1090 now on the Evo. Really starting to worry about the front tyre wear. Not much we can do about it. We've just got to keep driving the car to the line. We've got the time over the remaining laps with the lead that we have, but we've just got to make those front tyres last. I kind of expect the front tyres to start giving a bit, round about 75% wear, and we're probably sitting at 60 odd, 65. And we've got round about 25% of the race left. Laps 10, 11 and 12 to go. So let's start to give my thoughts on the car to drive. The RX, when it's a heavy car, it's quite slow. It's got low, I say low power, it's just under 500 brake horsepower. That's not really low, but it's dampened down from what the R26B should be. The 787 engine has lots of power, and if you can get that engine power up with this car, it will be more of a handful. It is actually quite pleasant to drive around this circuit. I did want to take this car to the human comedy missions and go up into the Trail Mountain and start to win that race with it, but this car does the full race distance without a pit stop, but it just doesn't have the legs. Again, it's 620 pp that race, but the tyres are different. These are both running sport tyres here, and that gives you the amount of extra BHP because you have more available power from the ECU. Both of these cars suffer greatly because they are limited on power, and you don't get to use the full benefit. Maybe these cars will come to their own when we go to Le Mans and start to do the 800 pp races. Maybe that's where these will shine, but you'll lose a lot of that when you're using the more powerful tyres, the race tyres. Let's just gain a glimpse of where we are then. Fastest lap goes currently to the RX, which looks like a 2:14.064. The Evo with a 2:14.082. Fastest lap of the race still with Mr. Gallo, bottom race 2:10. And as it is now, the RX is definitely stretching his legs away. He's only got a 12-second lead on the race that he's in, but he's probably got a good 7 seconds lead over the Mitzi at this point, the Evo. But the Evo's still clicking along. He did a 2:18 last lap, slowly losing it. 215, 217, 218, but that's because the front tyres haven't got the grip. You can see the car starting to slide towards the walls now as the RX starts to pull away. Both have lost fuel weight. The Evo definitely down to, and there we go, we've just changed the gauge, so we've got 3 laps left. 2.9, and there is 11 and 12 to go, so plenty of fuel. There's no need to change anything on the fuel economy or the fuel map. There goes the RX. He's just about to enter the tunnel now, and he wouldn't have the Evo in his mirror at this point. Let's count it out. Let's see how far he goes. So he crosses the line at 22.50. So 22. What time? 52. And the Evo goes 23.0. So there's 8 seconds between the two. I don't think I did a bad job of getting the timing mapped quite correctly. So the Evo last lap did a 2:18.7, and the RX did a 2:16.0 it looks like. Purple sector in sector 1 by the Evo, so he's got the top line speed. His acceleration once he gets out of a corner is great, but going through the corner it's shonky. It's proper shocking. 2 laps to go, 1 3/4 laps to go, and those front tyres are looking dodgy. He's also showing wear on the rears. Let's have a look at the Mazda. The RX7's down to about 50% on its rears, but with a lap and a half to go, there's plenty there. The fronts are showing some level of wear, but I'm now starting to enjoy this race. Drifting the back end, pushing it out towards the wall. When I say drifting, it's not at 30 degrees, it's more like 7. I can't drift. It's not something I can proclaim to be good at, and there it is. I lose it and smack the wall and lose loads of power, but I'm a full straight away ahead of the Evo at this point. And the Evo's actually starting to come on its own. It's slowed down a bit, and the car likes to slide anyway now that it's got wear. The RX is just playing up. Look, the back end's starting to slip about. It's got over 50% of the fuel left. There's no dramas with that car. It looks like as he breaks into the corner there, it looks like with 1 lap to go he's going to romp this race, which wasn't going to be evident at the start, and the only difference between these two cars is the tyre wear on the Evo. And with that last lap starting now for the RX7, I'll give my conclusions on which for the best car for me to drive is. They both achieved the win, no stop, and with the win they both failed to win the clean race bonus. But it's a much faster car, the RX, over the distance, and for that, as a naturally aspirated car with a lower brake horsepower, less weight, I think the RX is the car to use for this race out of the two. Now, with better tyre wear on the Evo, maybe, because he's going to win by what looks like 21 seconds, you can see the RX is now up to 23 seconds in the lead. I wondered whether the Lancer would benefit from a pit stop. So if the Lancer was more drivable with a pit stop, could you make it up with better wear from the tyres? A single stop for tyres only would be 10, 11, 12 seconds. Pull in, stop, change the tyres, and away you go. You don't need to take fuel. Maybe that would be the race. Change that car to a one-stopper. The RX doesn't need it. It will fly through this race on hard setting, as said. It's 24 seconds in the lead. The Evo's 22 seconds in the lead. And we'll come round to the finish shortly and just discuss the finish times and see the total race time. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I appreciate this is my second video on the engine swaps. I hope you're enjoying it. If you did watch any of my trip videos to the Freedom Factory, thank you very much, but I know they haven't gone down very well. I know that's not the kind of content my viewers don't seem to like to watch, so we'll stick to GT7 for a bit. But I appreciate every one of you for subscribing if you have, and if you haven't, please consider doing so. It will help me out tremendously. And as we come to the time of year that we're at, just like to wish you all happy holidays and all the best for the festive period. So here we are, the RX now coming down to the finish, enters the tunnel. Total race time something like 27 minutes and looks like 22 seconds. The Evo entering the tunnel now, 27 minutes and 34 seconds. So 27 minutes 22, 27 minutes 34. Both underneath the half hour. Both you can do twice in an hour. Quite easy, quite straightforward. And that's how much finish there, 27.34. Here we are as the comparison. You can see the two. The Lancer 27.34 and a half. The Evo 27.22.080. And you can definitely see the variation in the finish of the races. And the overall winner being the RX7. Take care, folks. We'll see you on the next one.